first walking up the stage here is Hope Chapman, who's the Director of Payments Products at Ripple. I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah. We have David Weiss, who's the VP of Enterprise Sales at BVNK. And then we have Dan Kim, who's the VP of BD and Head of Digital Asset Listings at Coinbase. Oh, I didn't see that second part of the first time we chatted. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for coming on. How's it going?
Good.
Great. Thanks for having us. Good.
Well, the first thing I'm going to mention is I'm super excited to have Hope on stage here because we've been working super closely with Ripple. And you saw Bitwave payments earlier today. Part of that is that we are super excited to actually announce that it supports RLUSD. So we'll be doing payments through RLUSD. And I think we're doing a happy hour in Vegas in about 2 weeks from Money 2020. You guys should all come. Everyone's invited. It's at the Barbershop, which is that 90s cover club in the Cosmo. We're actually going to be paying you guys RLUSD for our sponsorship fee there. So I'm super excited about that.
Amazing. Yeah, us too.
Yeah. And then David, BVNK is deeply integrated into our payments product for on-ramping and off-ramping purposes. So that's been fun getting to know you for a little while here. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Really happy to be here. Excited to be working with Bitwave and all the other wonderful customers that are in that ecosystem and to be on stage with Hope and Dan.
Yeah. And Dan, we work with Coinbase. I haven't worked with you too much before, but Coinbase is a big customer and uses the payments product, which is exciting. If you guys want to hear about it, talk to Joe. He's in the audience here. Dan, let's start with you, and let's give you the first crack at the old moderator panel here. But tell me, what do you think about payments these days? Like you at Coinbase, how are you guys thinking about the ecosystem of payments? How are you thinking about where this is all going? I know Brian Armstrong is a big believer in crypto payments. What do you think?
I mean, we're excited by it. I mean, one of the things, I've been with Coinbase for about 5 years now, and one of the things that we always focus on is, what's the utility of crypto? What's the utility of blockchain? And I think we went through different cycles. We were just kind of joking about the NFT cycle a couple of years ago, and whether or not it's back.
I'm not joking.
I don't think it is. But to us, payments represents probably the best use case for crypto and blockchain because it really solves real problems. And it's something that everyone understands. So at Coin, I mean, we're excited about the Genius Step. We're excited about everything that stablecoins can represent to just faster, better, more efficient payments. So
Dan, something I mentioned in my keynote, I don't know if you're here with it, was I call it like the balkanization of stablecoins, which is the idea that like everyone and their brother's launching a stablecoin. And you're gonna have folks like Coinbase that are sitting in the middle there and doing kind of the arbitrage between them. How do you guys think about that? I know this was not a prepared question, so I'm catching you off guard on this one, but like, are you guys looking at a world where you're going to try to get rid of commissions and fees on that kind of stuff? Or like, are you excited that there's this like new world of things to facilitate trading between?
I think in general, we're excited about just anything that drives overall activity into stablecoin and blockchains. There's a lot of fragmentation right now in terms of people who want their own stablecoins, similar to people who want their own L2s or L3s. Mm-hmm. But we kind of see it as it's better for the broader ecosystem if more and more people kind of lean into that. And then we can kind of go solve, the other problems that surface from there being too many, ways to do something.
Yeah. Hope, why don't you? So I'd love to hear about some of the use cases you guys are seeing. Let's bring it right around to use cases because that's what really matters in this world here.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick note on the stablecoin proliferation. It's good to see people leaning into the space, but it's hard to build and launch a stablecoin that's fully regulated and maintains PEG and has high quality liquidity on market. So I think that it's exciting that people are excited about it and want to get involved, but we will see a consolidation down the road around kind of trusted regulated stablecoins.
Oh, okay. We'll throw this up on the prediction slide from panelist predictions that we see consolidation around stablecoins. I like it.
Yeah. In terms of use cases, stablecoins have really blown the doors open, as it were, on crypto and crypto-based payments. Having that kind of really solid middle leg for any kind of a payment is really exciting. I think we're seeing a lot of traction from an enterprise side. We're seeing a lot of traction for people wanting to use it for treasury. They're using crypto just on and off ramps. They're doing straight fiat to fiat payments globally. And then we are seeing more players who are actually ending in stablecoins, so settling in stablecoins, which is really exciting because I think that that's really the next iteration of this journey. outside of stablecoins, we're also seeing a lot happening around. I heard that other man on the panel say real-world asset tokenization. So we do have some players who are using XRPL to tokenize real-world assets, bring them on chain, and bring that instantaneous value transfer outside of just kind of fiat currencies.
Yeah. It's hard you can't really talk about payments without talking about what you're paying for. And in a lot of those cases, you're paying for assets and RWAs and things like that.
Exactly.
Ripple, you guys have been doing this forever. I mean, like you guys have had this sort of like the stablecoin sandwich was one of your original props, whatever, 10 years ago when you guys launched. So has it been like kind of a funny world seeing the world catch up to that?
Yeah. Not I told you so, but you know,
not as much.
It's exciting to see, you know, everybody else kind of leaning in and catching on to something that we saw over 10 years ago, which is blockchain technology really can enable value to move the way information moves on the internet. And it is really exciting from a product perspective. I'm sure you guys would agree. We're kind of crossing the chasm right now.
Yeah.
And that's just awesome. And Ripple's really excited that we have a front row seat and we're well positioned and, you know, up here with other people who are front row too. It's exciting.
Yeah, so David, let's bring it to you, man. So I was going to actually ask you a bunch of questions about Swift and like integrating with financial traditional payment rails, but then Matt Cutler kind of beat us to it and like did the knockout presentation of the year about everything TradFi. But I mean, it's like you guys more so than a lot of the folks here, like certainly more so than Bitwave, sit right at that intersection of traditional financial rails, traditional financial companies, and then crypto. Tell us, like, is the industry getting better? Like, are they a little bit friendlier? Like, do they get it a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. And Matt's presentation was fantastic and fascinating. And as an old banker and then TradFi payments guy who's now really taken on to this new blockchain, digital asset, stablecoin way of making payments, you know, to really see this come to fruition is quite exciting. We're never going to have a time where I think the old school way or the banks themselves are out of the picture completely. I think they do serve a central role in the global financial ecosystem. But I think it's clear that the momentum is headed this way, and they've now got a, if you can't beat them, join them mentality, right? At first, I think they were pushing back. Now I think they recognize that this is really just a better, faster, more efficient, cost-effective way to make payments, and they're jumping on board. And you're seeing that with many different things from, you know, Fiserv announcing their coin to different banks doing things to them already using it for their traditional treasuries. And at BVNK, we really want to sit in the center there and make it seamless, whether you have a traditional fiat payment or a blockchain digital asset stablecoin payment. You can go back and forth seamlessly. We want to make it as simple as sending an email. People don't necessarily need to know what's behind the hood. They just need to know that if they wanted to go from A to B, they wanted to go there instantly in a safe and secure manner. And that's the infrastructure that we're building out, and that's where I think this is going, just to make it you know, a one-stop instant shop to make payments all around the world.
Yeah, the goal is seamlessness. The goal is just that it all interops. Okay, so Dan, when we did some of our prep, one of the things you wanted to definitely talk about was the creator economy. And the funny is, like, you don't hear about the creator economy anymore, even though it is as big as ever. Like, people don't really talk about it. You talk about like instances of it. You talk about, you know, OnlyFans. You talk about like whatever it is. Like, you talk about those things, but you don't. Tell me a little bit like about how you guys are thinking about this in the abstract.
I was thinking more like Spotify and YouTube, but I guess OnlyFans would work as well.
Spotify, YouTube, you got them all. It takes all flavors here.
Look, I think for those that have been to or operate out of Asia and know the creator economy, I think there's probably a better representation there of how the creator economy is going to evolve over time. I think one of the big issues that we have here is unless you're in the top 1% of a YouTube or TikTok platform, you're not going to make a lot of money. Right. You're hoping for views and you're hoping for sponsorships, but you know the system is broken in many ways, right? And one way to solve for that is to democratize ownership of that platform such that you know, you don't have just the elite being able to monetize things, right? And the way we see it, we think blockchain and stablecoins are a very efficient way of enabling that. In Asia, there's tipping is very popular. If you like an artist or a musician, you can actually tip them money, right? And it's very efficient to do that here. I don't think we have that mechanism here yet in the US because of all the fees associated with credit cards and all the friction that exists in fiat-based rails. But I think we're going to start to see a lot of that change as stablecoins become more widely adopted, and as we see agentic commerce, AI-driven commerce, become more and more prevalent.
Well, and of course, so that's where this is going, is that basically it's all about micropayments. It's all about like changing the model, because it was just never made sense to do a $1 thing on a credit card. You can't really do that. So then obviously you guys are thinking a lot about agents. We're going to be talking later with the guy who created X402. How are you thinking about agents from your side of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, X402 is something that we worked on at the beginning of the year. For those who don't know, 402 is it's an old 30-year error code now over HTTP. It was, you heard of 404, found not found. 402 was called payment not found. It just never went anywhere because there was no solution to actually sending payments over HTTP. So we brought that back earlier this year, and we're now calling it an extension of 402. And it's a way to attach a payment payload to an HTTP protocol using 402, such that you can actually start paying people using stablecoins through standard web communications. It also works with fiat, believe it or not. But we're now moving towards a world where we really want people to understand the benefits of using, for example, Base and USDC, or any blockchain, or any stablecoin, or any token to make payments over HTTP. So we're really excited about that.
David, same high-level question to you. I mean, obviously you guys are thinking deeply about the agentic payment space, right? And like how this automates, how this goes at scale. What are the scale problems you guys see? Obviously what Dan said's right on. If you can do this all over Base and stablecoins, your life's easy. But you can't always do it all over Base and stablecoins. So how is that all going to work together?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no question that AI is here to stay. We're just scratching the surface. It's going to be a huge part of all of our lives in every aspect in the coming months, quarters, years, decades. So the question is, how do you monetize that? How do you capitalize on that? How are payments going to facilitate around agentic commerce? And we really think that the blockchain and stablecoin specifically are the way to do that. Hope alluded to it earlier. You can't have 1,000 different stablecoins operating. You'll never get scale, right? You really have to have, I don't know what the exact number is, but a handful or so of really trusted, really liquid, really heavily supported stablecoins that can move globally instantly and have financial inclusion, whether it's in Asia or LATAM or Africa or the US. And I think that's where we're headed. And there's obviously some players out there right now. You've got Circle, you've got Tether, and so on and so forth. I think RLUSD and the ecosystem that Ripple has is another going to be a big player in that space. As AI and the stablecoin world really materializes in the coming years, you're going to see those players and that liquidity really be able to facilitate global commerce.
So Hope, bring that perfect segue. Hope, I asked you about this earlier. We ended up getting a little sidetracked on crazy things, but what do you think? Take some project you guys are working on, some company you're working on, something doing really enterprise stuff with blockchain, with stablecoins. What is the coolest thing that you are seeing at Ripple right now? The coolest project, the coolest.
That's a good question. I think that there's two categories. I think the first that I find interesting is people really using us for more of the one-stop shop, right? So we're starting to have customers come to us, and basically they want to say, here's my fiat money, make it work. And so they give us the fiat, and we can take care of everything else. We can hold it. They can, use it in payment flows. They have that instantaneous liquidity, and it's all accessible, through a one-stop shop platform. So I think that is kind of really exciting, because you're taking these fragmented, we can use it for payments and all these things. You're bringing it all together, and it's really compelling to a wide range of customers, not just people who are super crypto sophisticated. You can provide them everything they need to do the benefits of the blockchain without having to get into the nitty-gritty and the weeds themselves. And then the other area that I think is really interesting is around real-world assets. So, we have a couple customers coming and using us for real-world asset tokenization on the XRPL, and using the blockchain to provide more accessibility to those asset classes, and more instantaneous liquidity, collateral availability, things like that. So yeah, those are two of the areas that I think are most exciting. But yeah.
Yeah, Dan, question for you, because one of the things I'd written down when we talked earlier was one of the things that you guys think about is not just how you enable this stuff. And X402 is a good example of how you enable it, but it's how you bake it into your overall reporting ecosystem. So I ask this as someone with a vested interest in, like, hopefully people use Bitwave to do the agentic accounting and things like that. But how are you guys thinking about this? Like, when you're doing, I know with Google, you just launched that big project. How are you thinking about not just the use of funds, but then also the reporting after it? Because that's what pretty much everyone in this room cares about, is how do you actually report on it?
So, so if you Google X402 facilitator service, right, I think that's one of the most interesting things that companies can lean into. It's basically becoming a payment processor for X402 payments, right? So, but right now we're kind of taking one step back and saying, like, how do we build the marketplace, right? And even taking a step behind that, how do you build a standard? So we announced a week or two ago that we're going to be teaming up with Cloudflare and moving X402 into an open source, into a foundation. And we're doing that because even though it kind of hurts to let the baby go, we do want it to have a life of its own and want it to be really adopted as an independent standard, not as a Coinbase standard or a Cloudflare standard or a Google standard, right? And then Google did the same recently with their 808. So our first step is let's make it accessible, open, get as many contributors to it as possible. And then we got to go in there and find buyers and sellers, which we launched the X402 Bazaar recently, which is a directory of people who can buy and sell things on X402. And then comes all the other more complicated things like facilitator service, like reporting, right? All the stuff that real companies have to deal with that I don't think we're just there yet because it's still growing, but it's going to be a really big opportunity to really own that space, in my opinion.
I'm going to ask a question for both of you guys here because, as part of my keynote, I said specifically, we're in this space where, like, we're getting so close to decentralization, cutting out middlemen. Both of you guys run slightly middlemen operations in some ways on some different parts of it, especially if you talk about X402 and all that. The facilitator model is one where it's going to be taking some fees on and things like that. How do you convince me that we still need middlemen a little bit here? I don't know who wants to. You want to convince me? Change my mind.
Well, I'll do my best. Middlemen is not the word that we would use. We would use a connectivity layer, right? We are connecting A to B in a faster, more cost-effective, seamless way. You do have to move things, right? There needs to be the rails, right? What there doesn't need to be is a lot of different hops where there's stops within those rails. And I think that's really where middlemen, or the term middlemen, a correspondent bank, if you will, where things get stuck for a period of time, right? Whereas a connectivity layer like BVNK is just to facilitate the movement from A to B without having it to actually stop in the middle. But yes, technically you still have to have that rail to get from one point to another.
I'll let you guys see me get schooled in verbiage by a sales guy. Well done, sir. Well done. Dan, what do you think?
Was it connectivity? Yeah. I think there's a lot of camps in crypto. There's those who believe in no connectivity layers, and those who believe in a lot of connectivity layers. I'll say this: one of the most common questions we get when we talk about agents and agentic commerce is, how do I know I can trust the agent? How do I know the agent's been registered and not operating on behalf of a legal entity or government? Where do I hold the crypto that I process? Who's going to do the reporting for me? How do I get a dashboard for all my sales and returns, right? So even though we may not want one philosophically, there has to be someone who's connectivity layering all of those functions, right, into a trusted platform. And I think that's really the opportunity that corporations have, is to provide that level of a trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope we'll kick off our kind of last set of words here as we roll. We get ready for lunch. Hope everyone's hungry. Last thoughts on payments. Last thoughts on what we're going to see over the next year around payments and stablecoins.
Yeah, I think that we are kind of crossing the chasm. We are really getting to a point where we're seeing much broader adoption across not just early adopters, which is super exciting. I think the space is going to continue to grow, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for high-quality players who are able to provide that trust and those services with this technology to give the benefits of the technology to people who might not be experts on the technology. So that's, I think that's where we're leaning in.
I love it. David?
Yeah, so I'll reiterate, I think this really is going to be the wave of the future, where it's not going to be just the crypto folks or the crypto natives that are doing this. It's going mainstream, right? Where, Pat mentioned during his keynote that, the Fortune 500, the Walmarts, the Amazons are now looking at this. And I do believe by, the next, this time 2 years from now, the vast majority, if not all the Fortune 500 and the broader companies will be using digital assets and stablecoins in some way to facilitate business. And it really does open up the world that has been underserved by traditional financial models to being included. And you're seeing that in LATAM, especially right now, where folks are being paid in dollar-backed stable coins and actually being able to spend those in local places, whether it's for their groceries or gas or so on and so forth. And it really cuts out that devaluation or that deflationary tendencies of their local currencies that have really held them back for so many years. So I think it's really going to be revolutionary, not only for the speed and the mobility of commerce, but also for the inclusion of the world, which I think is super important.
Yeah. Dan, take us home. Last word, my friend.
I'll leave this thought in your guys' head. How many times have you been on ChatGPT or Gemini and you're solving a problem and then it kind of tells you what to buy, but you can't buy it? So you got to go and link out to it. The point I'm making is I think agentic commerce is going to be a lot bigger than a lot of us think. It's going to come a lot faster and it's going to be just pervasive. I think the paywalls that you get for the New York Times are going to go away. You no longer have to subscribe for a year for one article. You can actually pay for that article. And I think you're going to be able to fractionalize data sets and actually sell them by pennies or sub-pennies. I think that is probably the thing that I'm most excited about over the next year.
Yeah, stablecoins, payments, rails, and just like the monetization, the micro monetization of everything. God, we say it like that, I'm not sure it's super exciting, but it'll be good. But look, I do hate a good New York Times paywall. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.